Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Brett McCollum, and I'm here today with Mike Morawski. Today, we're going to be talking about navigating a changing market. But before we do, guys, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs to 2 to 5x their businesses to allow them to build the businesses they've always wanted and live the lives they've always dreamed of. Without further ado, Mike, how are you?
I'm great, Brett. How are you, man? Good to be
Good.
here.
Good getting to know you a little bit before the show. Got to kind of get a little bit of your story there. And I got to be honest, Mike, I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun. Before we kind of just start rambling, can you do me a favor? Can you back up, rewind, some context, history? Who is Mike Morawski?
Yeah, sure, Brett. I've been in real estate for 30 years, and most of that time either investing personally or working with investor clients. My background, I had a general contracting business for a number of years. We were building room additions, building about 25 a year. And, Brett, like any entrepreneur, I was stuck in that grind, right? I was
Sure.
doing the marketing, I was doing the sales, I was doing the contracts, I was doing the ordering, the hiring, the firing, the bookkeeping, and still in the field banging nails. And sat up in bed one morning, looked at my wife at the time and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm burnt out. And, I had somebody knocking at my door. I was fortunate to buy the company. So I sold my company and thought I'd take a year off. But Brett, you're an entrepreneur. You know that as an entrepreneur, we never take time off.
No such
And
thing.
so I went right out. I bought myself 2 duplexes to rehab. And my first stint into real fix and flip stuff for myself went into started rehabbing these 2 duplexes and met a real estate agent along the way. And he was really successful. At the time, he was making close to, $750,000 a year. And this a number of years ago, 30 years ago, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I went to him and I said, hey, I think I'd like to go in this business. And he said, I think you'd be great at it. So I did something interesting. I went to him and said, hey, could I shadow you and your team? He said, no, I'm going to do one better for you. I'm going to make you a cassette tape. And I say that because I'm probably dating myself, right? Because I don't think you could find anything to make a cassette tape on anymore. And so I went and he made me this tape and I listened to it, Brett, over and over and over again. It's kind of just like this podcast we're doing. People are going to pick some golden nuggets up, but they go back and listen to it a couple of times. They're going to get a lot more out of it. And that's exactly what I did. I just listened to that material over and over again. And I went into real estate. My first 9 months in the real estate business, I sold 78 houses. I went on to build a team selling about 125, 130 houses a year. Did that for about 12, 13 years consecutively. And in 2005, I went in the apartment business and never looked back. absolutely
Wow.
love the apartment business. It's in my blood. It's my DNA. It's who I am, and, my biggest mission in life is to provide safe and secure housing for my tenants.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I've always tried to do. So we buy value add, convert it, change the operations, change the physical obsolescence of it, and make them operate better. But I went in the apartment business. I did my first deal in 2005. It was an 11 unit. And I built a $100 million company over the next 30 months. We
Wow.
owned 4,000 apartments in 5 different markets. I had a management company managing 7,500 units, and I had over 100 people working for me. So, one thing led to another. 2008 shows up, and the
Yep.
world goes to hell in a handbasket, right? By 2010, we had come off of the rails. Now, I always tell people I made 5 mistakes along the way. And the first one was that we grew way too fast as a company. So by
Yep.
2010, I was off the rails trying to figure out how to balance my company. Now, I also owned $60 million worth of real estate that was over leveraged. I was 85% loan to value. And I coach people today, Brett, that they should be at 65% loan to value, right? I had no equity in there. I had no play in case something happened. I didn't pay attention to the details. I was undercapitalized as a business owner, and I didn't listen to people around me.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, we got wiped out. What I tried to do was I tried to save my company. I had 38 different companies at the time. And I thought, well, what I can do, I probably had 12 companies that I should have just let go to foreclosure, and a handful of investors get hurt, but I didn't want anybody to get hurt. So I started to move money from profitable to non-profitable companies, trying to keep the whole ship afloat. And my accountant and my attorney both said it's okay to do that. Just leave a paper trail. When the markets come back, we'll put everything back. It's a great plan. Well, in our defense, we thought it was a recession. A typical recession, Brett, will last 17 or 18 months. There'll be a 10 or 12% correction in the market, and everything is back to normal. Well, 2008, we all know that whole thing lasted 7 or 8 years with a 47% correction in the markets. It's a hard storm to weather.
Yeah.
So, I moved money back and forth trying to keep the ship afloat. And one thing I didn't do was I didn't tell my investors. So,
Mm.
we're in a business that we're held at a very high level, a very high transparency level, and we need to communicate with our investors. And I didn't do that. And as a result of non-disclosure, I wound up getting charged on wire fraud and mail fraud charges and got sentenced to 10 years in federal prison.
Mm.
So in 2013, simply got wiped out, go to federal prison. And I always tell people, Brett, I say I never flew private. I didn't have a boat. I didn't have a big house. I didn't drive a fancy car. I was the neighborhood baseball coach. I was home every night for dinner. And I got ripped from that to live in a 12 by 12 room with 3 men I didn't know, nor did I like, wondering what
Yeah.
the hell happened in my life. I was in prison for about 3 weeks, got served divorce papers by my wife, just wrecked me.
Mm.
About 3 weeks later, so now I'm in prison, walking around every day. How am I going to get through today, much less 10 years of this? And a guy walks up to me. And, Brett, I think we're all faced with defining moments in our life.
Yeah.
And this guy walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, look," he said, "don't let these people beat you."
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
All I want to do is take from you everything that you've ever known. They can take your business, they can take your money, they can destroy your family, but what they can't take is who you are and what you're made of. They can't take what you have upstairs, your brain, the power. You can go back and build that $100 million company. What you need to do right now is take care of yourself.
Mm.
And I don't know what it was that day, but boy, it was like somebody flipped a switch. And all of a sudden, my world changed. He said, "Come to my class, start working out. You'll start to feel better every day." So I took him up on it. I started going to the gym every day. I started working out. And remember, I came from running marathons to being 35 pounds overweight. I absolutely hated myself and wanted to kill myself. But for some reason, this day, this whatever this guy said to me changed my destiny. And so I started going to his class. I started working out. I started feeling better. As a result of that, I wound up writing 2 books in college or in prison. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I wrote an ethics course. I taught real estate investing, property management, and ethics in prison for 6 years. I was on an
Wow.
outreach program, went in the community. I told my story to small business owners and local college students. And I met a professor from the University of Minnesota, and he and I co-authored a paper together that we got published in the Business Journal of Ethics. Today,
Wow.
it gets taught at the collegiate level for forensic accounting and sales and marketing classes. And, Brett, I thought I'd come home and just go into coaching and training business and teach people how to do multifamily syndications, how to raise capital and not make the mistakes I made.
Hmm.
Well, I wound up underwriting a bunch of deals and I found a deal in Florida that went to 2 of my coaching clients and said, "Hey, I think we should do this." And we wound up partnering on that deal. And our securities attorney during the process said, "Hey, I think I can get you approved by the SEC to go back and be an issuer of securities and a sponsor of deals again." And she did. She went back, got me an approval by the SEC to go back and do what I love to do and what I'm doing today.
Wow.
So, it's kind of funny how the world is kind of totally transformed, right? And I tell this story because I think it brings hope and inspiration for people. I've had all this great success. I lost everything. And now it's the redemption side, right? And rebuilding. So
Wow. Man, that's a lot, Mike. um, okay, let's go back a bit. Um, 2005, you realized when you started really getting into the apartment space. Is that right?
right, right.
And 30 months is a pretty fast, and I know it's one of your 5 things that you talk about, but
Yeah.
30 months is, um, it's not even the accumulation of property because I can get my head around that. I can get my head, how does one staff that many people that quickly?
Yeah. So we were constantly interviewing people.
Yeah.
And I had a partner that was an operations guy for a major company in the Chicago market. And I thought he had a good handle around being a COO, right? And operations wise. And, we just got too big too fast for him to handle that influx of business and the influx of cash and the management stuff. But we hired people and I probably overstaffed, Brett, because I
Yeah.
hired people that were talented, that were smarter than me and smarter than him. to go to work for us. We had a very high
Yeah.
payroll as a result of that, but I
Sure.
also had this vision of where we were going to go. I'm a big visionary and I see the big picture. And
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
I thought I had somebody who was handling the details around me, and that wasn't really what was happening. And so, we hired people uh, along the way, knowing that we were going to grow to that point. And boy, Brett, if the market wouldn't have changed, I can't even imagine where that company would be today.
Right.
But we did have good staff in place. It's just that, when 2008 came around and occupancies dropped and interest rates went up and cash flow fell apart, it was hard to weather that storm.
Yeah. And what do you notice? Okay. Well, I was going to kind of save this, but I want to make sure we don't miss the opportunity for it. Um, from somebody, because obviously you've been through some things that, most of us never have. Um, and you see things maybe in a different perspective, So one thing I want to say is you still get to do what you love, which is amazing,
Right.
by the way. And I won't, I don't even know if surprised is the right word. Maybe it is. That having gone through, having gone to prison because of ultimately the big picture was it's real estate, but it wasn't real estate that got you. There was decisions within real estate, I guess. But you didn't shy away from it coming back, right? Like you're still like, I still love to do this. And you've learned what not to do, so to speak. But what is the correlation in today's market in 2008 for somebody like yourself that like you built a huge portfolio of, and for the syndicators out there, like, are you seeing any similarity from what you saw back then, to where things are at today?
Yeah. So a couple of things. First of all, there's no geniuses in this business. There's only market cycles.
Yeah.
And you got to look at where you're at in the market cycle, and see where it makes sense. Is there correlations between 2008 and today? There's some, but they're very few. Back then you had higher interest rates. You had people with no equity. You were getting mortgages at 125% of appraised value.
Yeah.
Um, they were appraising properties at 125% of what the value should have been. You were able to get 80/20 loans at the same bank. I mean,
Wow.
it was crazy. And you could get a 20% loan for the down payment and an 80% loan for the principal payment, and you didn't have to pay PMI. So you had a
Yeah.
lot of people buying houses and buying real estate that should have never been buying houses or real estate. So you had a lot of this bad paper. We don't have that today. We don't have that issue today in the marketplace. You got interest rates that are 2 and 3%. People sitting in their houses. You got a lot of equity in the market. Brett, there's somewhere north of $20 trillion, or I'm sorry, $20 billion right now, just sitting on the sidelines of capital that people could deploy. I think there's $2 trillion in IRA money out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's big dollars that are just sitting on the sidelines. Um, yes, I think that I think a lot of times what happens is you get a lot of media and a lot of stuff that instills fear in people, and people don't want to do anything because they're not sure what's going to happen. But I firmly believe we're at the bottom of the market cycle, and that, you get involved today, you're going to have the wind at your back. You're going to be at the front of the bull run. And there's going to be more wealth created in this next market cycle than we saw the last time.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, because that's the reason I ask that is obviously the differences are stark, from the type of loans that are out there and that sort of thing. I guess for me it's the rate today's rate because it's the people that all right, here's where I found the issue is in syndication, the people that bought in 2021, 2022, even early 23 before rates went boom back up again.
Yeah.
And they bought them on adjustable rate mortgages.
Right.
Today they're hurting.
Yep.
Things like that. Inventory is here in Florida where I live. I mean, it's skyrocketed, 300%, 400%, and I don't get the same vibe as I do from the 2008, but there's just I do think we look back over the last year and a half, 2 years, and we look back and go, wow, that was significant. Because there's a lot of people hurting right now. There's a lot of people impacted right now, and for different reasons. Credit card debt's the highest it's ever been in history. Economic, recession is a big deal, and so inflation's a big deal, and cost of materials a big deal. Tariffs right now are a big deal. Things that are causing our day-to-day functionality in the, but it's different. It's not 2008, but I wonder, is there some principles maybe you walk through from the lessons in 2000 that you apply to the changing market today?
Yeah. First of all, I'm a fixed rate debt guy. Always
that.
have been. One of my best friends in the world, Brett, has been in this business as long as I have. And he and I will get in a discussion about fixed rate versus floating rate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing to me, our philosophies, right? He believes floating rate debt, that there's a place for it. And I say, man, I want to get out of bed every morning and know that my mortgage payment's the same. Because,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a problem today in today's environment. That's why there's so many deals that are stressed.
Right.
You know, Fortunately, knock on wood, just about everything that I own today is below 4% interest.
Wow.
And it's indicative of assumptions and buying distressed deals that, had low interest rates, and we were able to go in and assume a bunch of mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's, and it's fixed rate, 10-year debt. So, I believe there's safety in that, right? Even in a good market. Now, there is a place for floating rate debt, especially if you're doing a quick flip, a 2-year deal, something you're going to be in and out of. It could make sense. But, if you're going to hold a deal for any period of time, you should be at a fixed rate.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that a lot, and especially all the people I get to talk with, and the ones that I've talked to privately that are struggling the most. It's because they're not on fixed rate. It's unpredictable. They thought
Right.
they'd be able to get out in a 5-year turnaround, and then they're having to make capital calls and doing this and that, and the stress. Oh my gosh, the stress you're hearing, is it's tough. Um, when you guys are raising capital in today's market, having the lessons that you've learned from that 2013, however long, I don't remember how long that had went to prison. What are some best practices you would recommend now to people in a uncertain market where I don't know, like we think I agree with you, Mike, by the way. I do think we're kind of at or near the bottom, right? But we don't know ultimately.
Right.
That's just, I thought I knew a lot. I thought COVID was going to be when the recession hit, and then that didn't happen, and, but that being said, like, what are some best practices would you recommend to folks raising capital today?
Yeah. First of all, your leverage, your loan leverage, you should be at 65% LTV. Right. That's one of the things that I think that you can find some safety in.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you can express that to your investor who's coming in, that can help with that story, right? On how the deal will perform. I'm finding a lot of investors today that They've been in treasuries, they've been in traditional stocks and bonds, and they've seen some profitability in there over the last several months. And they're having a hard time making the decision to come out of that and go into alternative investments.
Right.
Um, I think, when we talk about us being at the bottom here, some of the greatest things that have happened recently that show that we're at the bottom is the fluctuation in our stock market, right?
Mm,
And how it's come down. What happened in China a few weeks back, right? These are things that are indicators that we're getting to the bottom of this cycle. And so, you can stay put, but then don't come out when the market falls a little bit more. Just stay put because it'll come back. But now's the time to come out of those traditional investments and go into some alternative investments because that's where you're going to see some growth. So that's a conversation I have a lot with investors today. I see people not doing anything because they're fearful
right.
that and one of the biggest conversations I see today is that people don't invest today because they think there's going to be a better deal tomorrow.
Sure.
And I think there's an issue with that because first of all, there's so many deals today, Brett, that are being traded behind closed doors.
Mm,
Freddie's calling operators up and saying, "Hey, listen, we know you have some assets in this market. You're a good operator. Would you consider taking this over at par?" And there's a lot of trading going on behind doors. Freddie was just out, walked one of our properties this past week, and we talked about a couple of other properties in the market that I know that are in trouble. And they said, "You're first on our list for a call when we take these back." So
wow.
you know, I think there's a lot of that going on. So the average investor out there who says, "I'm not going to invest because there's going to be a better deal tomorrow," I think they're going to miss
They're
a
missing out.
lot of the big opportunity because those better deals are today and they're happening right now. We're going to see very little inventory that's distressed come to the market as retail because even now banks are going to hold
Yeah.
property. And banks are going to take these deals back and they're going to sit on them because those rules have changed, right? They used to be that a bank wasn't in the real estate business and had to get those off their balance sheet. Today, they can sit on those deals and they can
Mm,
sit in them. Banks are hiring asset management teams today to manage those assets for a period of time, knowing that they took this deal back at par, but yet knowing that there's this much equity in it, call it 30% equity in the deal, and that in a year from now, they're going to be able to sell this deal and they're going to make a couple $1 million on the spread. And
right.
so banks are going to sit on deals they're not going to sell. They're going to trade behind closed doors, and we're going to see very little of that kind of inventory come to the market.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that's another reason why we're not going to see another 2008, foreclosure crisis, and all that. It's like there's too much equity out
Yeah,
there. Um, I'm certainly not an economics genius by any stretch. Far from it. I call people like Mike a lot. Like, Mike, what do I do?
yeah.
Like, you've been doing this for longer than I have. You've been through cycles, you've been through things. But man, Mike,
Well, Brett,
we
you know what? I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to say you have a mastermind. And Napoleon Hill says that, there's more power. Put two minds together, three minds together. And when you're in a
yeah,
group of people and somebody's got an issue, there's got to be enough smart people in that room to give enough smart ideas that can help mitigate some of those issues. So that's really important is I think that you're networking
that's right.
and you're building relationships with people smarter than you today in the business.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, that's the whole reason why we exist, right? Is it's fun to win together. It's really fun to win with people, right? Like it's an exciting period of time when
Right.
you're, hey, we're all doing it, yay! We certainly had that period. but it's a lot more comforting going through the difficult season, the downturn, the things that are struggling. It's a lot more comforting going, you know what, I'm not in it alone. In fact, I'm in it with people that have been through this before and have made it out the other side, and they're telling me what lessons to look out for so that I don't have to make the same ones.
Right.
But I'll make a caveat to that though, Mike. If you are fortunate enough to be in a mastermind like that or surrounded by people like that, you have to check your pride at the door and raise your hand and ask for help.
100%. Hey, can I tell a quick story about that?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Because I couldn't agree with you more. I think that comment is it, and your listeners need to listen to that comment, because I think we walk into rooms and we put our ego on, our pride, and we say, but here's what happened to me. In the midst of, so this is before 2008, before the crash, before I got in trouble. I had an incident in my business. My partner did something that wasn't right. And I had never told my wife about business or anything that was going on. And this incident happened on a Wednesday. On Friday night, my wife and I went to dinner with him and his wife. And my wife doesn't know anything about what happened that week or what happened on Wednesday. I told her, hey, I got a great new investor, or we bought another deal, or good things, right? I never told her anything bad.
Right.
Well, this incident happens on Wednesday. Friday night, we go to dinner. We're coming home from dinner, and my wife says to me, hey, I don't trust him. And I think I'm going to be a good husband at this point. And I'm going to go, honey, I got this under control. Don't worry about it. When in reality, what I should have said, Brett, was tell me more about that. What do you see that I'm missing? Right. But my ego said, I got this under control.
Yeah.
Well, 5 days later, I'm at lunch with my attorney. And my attorney, after lunch in the parking lot, says to me, hey, listen, I just want to tell you, I'm not trusting your partner right now. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's some things going on you need to take a look at. What do I say? I say, Bob, don't worry about it. I got it under control. Right. So 2 people within 5 days of this incident happening tell me that they don't like what's going on around me, and I ignore it because I think I got it under control. That's your ego. That's your pride that talks to you. So you're right, Brett. I think you got to check that at the door, and you got to listen to people and take that advice.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree. And Mike, I wanted to be able to give you an opportunity because I know pre-show we talked about, you also, I believe you have another book that you've recently written. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I just
Can you
wrote a
tell
book.
us more about it?
Yeah. I wrote, my 3rd book came out. It's an Amazon bestseller. It's a Multifamily Investment Secrets, your explosive guide, your guide to explosive wealth in multifamily real estate. I talk a lot in this book about how to do the business, about some steps along the way, some investors that I've worked with that have had some serious success, some ways to build and things to watch out for. You can get it on Amazon or call me directly and I'll send you a copy. But you go to multifamilyinvestmentsecrets.com and you can see the website there.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll make sure that gets in the show notes too for you guys. And Mike, what about yourself? Is there another way to connect with you if people want to?
So I appreciate that, Brett. Yeah, anywhere that you hang out on social media, you'll find me. Connect with me, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm always trying to bring good content, good speakers, good opportunities, and other, in my podcasts, other people that are more experienced than me. So, anywhere on social media, or you could reach out to me at MikeMorawski.com. I love to network. I love to learn about you and see how I can add value to your world. So,
yeah, man, that's great. Thanks for that, Mike. Appreciate you doing this, sharing your story with us, and opening up and telling that was really great. I appreciate you taking your time to be with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Brett. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And guys, to you as well, thanks so much for spending your time hanging out with us, and we will see each of you guys on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.